detail day 2. So you can see we're off to a good start here. We have the steering wheel out of the car. So one of the problems, you and I are having a discussion about Alcantara and how people are like, well, Alcantara is a terrible thing to have because, you know, it does this. Well, there's a couple of things that cause this. One is eating cheeseburgers in the car. 2 is putting hand lotion in the car. Like, put your hand lotion on in the freaking bathroom and drink in the kitchen. This is Maddie's tips to grown-up tips to the millennials. So you just can't. You just have to be a little bit mindful. But this is what happens when when you're greasing up your hands all the time. And so one way to combat that is just to clean it more often. Another way is, again, stop eating cheeseburgers. And so regardless, you still are going to get oils from your hands. You go to the gym, stuff like that. You know, I just tend to make sure I wash my hands before. But you don't need to do anything special as long as we clean it. Now, this is beyond the point of just cleaning. We're going to have to repair this. Because what's going to happen is, you know, like sweaters, you know, back, I was going to say in the 80s, but you weren't born yet, but back in the day, you know, sweaters would get like those little balls, and back in the day they had like this little thing, like a cheese grater thing that would like pull the balls off. Well, what's going to happen with this is when we clean this, some of the fibers are going to dislodge and are going to ball up. In order to get those balls off here, we're going to have to sand it. So that's how we're going to restore it. But you're going to see it's not super difficult. We took it out so we could capture on camera, but you could just as easily clean it in the car. And so a couple of tips with Alcantara is, 1, clean it like every 6 months. If you do that, then you won't have this buildup. And then once every, once every 2 years, maybe you have to sand it. But Alcantara is actually super, super durable. So what we need to do, and so think about this logically, when I take my shirt and I put it in the washer, what I'm doing is I'm then putting detergent and water. The detergent doesn't clean your clothes. The release of the detergent is what cleans the clothes. And so if you think about it, if we just spray a bunch of cleaner on here and we leave it, the cleaner doesn't do anything. The cleaner might loosen up the cheeseburger funk, but the cleaner isn't going to do anything unless we remove it. And so if you think about this logically, just like cleaning your clothes, the rinse cycle is what dislodges the dirt. The cleaner goes in there, and it's, there's surfactants and detergents go in there and hopefully break things up, but then we have to get the detergent out. So that's exactly what we're going to do. But you need to be careful. We don't want to just dunk this in a bucket of water. We want to manage how much water we use, because it still is a fabric. And so in this, what we're going to do is we're going to use a steamer. We're going to set it on like setting 1 or 2, so we're not going to douse it in water. But the first thing we need to do is get this funk out. Once we get the funk out, we're going to assess it and see how many balls show up and how much dislodging of materials shows up, and then we'll sand it from there. So let's work on this here, see if we can restore this. And we may get to the point where we may have to remove too much material and it may not work, but at least it's worth a try. So
well, that was the first thing I was going to do, is go get it redone, until you brought up your idea, and I figured, hey, why not?
Yeah, we ought to be able to restore it. So I've just found that a steamer, you don't need a steamer. You could just mist some water on here, like with a spray bottle. But I found a steamer is super, super effective at this. The first thing we're going to do is just kind of get it damp. And let's treat this like this section, and then we'll treat it like one section at a time.
The car has 45,000 miles. You think it hasn't been cleaned in 45,000 miles?
Yeah. And the problem is most people don't know how to do it correctly.
Yeah. They probably do more harm than good.
This is one of those things, like if it's ruined anyway, let's go for it. Let's try to fix it. But I don't think you really need to worry. I don't think you were gonna, generally we don't have to worry too much about damaging it. And so
yeah, now I can see why you pulled it out though. It's much easier to get around the back and stuff with the steamer.
Yeah, how long did it take us? 4 minutes to get it out of the car? Yeah. 5 minutes? So I'm gonna put some, so this is our detergent, right? So this is Sonax, Alcantara, and upholstery cleaner. Right, so we're going to take our detergent, and now we're introducing the detergent onto the fabric. And what most people would think is that, okay, I'm going to put the detergent on the fabric. Look at that. Look at that funk coming out. And the detergent is going to solve my problem. Well, the detergent doesn't do squat if you don't remove it with the dirt.
Is that the same way you explained yesterday the car washing procedure? That the soap itself is not cleaning the car, it's just kind of loosening things up, then you spray it all off.
You would hope, right. And most pH neutral soap doesn't even do that. It's just a lubricant. You know, and people have this assumption that like I can just put dirt on the car and it just magically all the dirt washes away. Well, we need to agitate it in order to get this off. And we're probably gonna have to do this several times. But you can see this, look at all that.
Yeah, you can see it on the blue stripe. Yeesh.
So we'll do that once, and we'll do it several times. And you could just do this with a spray bottle, but you can see the heat and the mist is way more effective. So then, actually, so we can see this, I'm just going to use one of these towels here, but I'll go get some more of them. Let's see, we're pulling all this funk out of the fabric. And look, we've already loosened up. We've already taken the matting away. You know, it's back to
a darker color.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the combination of wetting and now this, what I'm hoping to do with the towel is I'm releasing, you know, wiping the dirt away. But because that was so dirty, we're gonna have to do that a few times. The other thing longer term is the leather's, you know, worn already, so the wheel may need to be redone, but this will at least buy you a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's do another round.
I've used an extractor before in carpets. Wouldn't something like that would work here? No.
No, because the extractor needs suction. Okay. This is too thin for that. I'm not a huge fan of extractors. They don't really work super well. Okay, let's do this again. And then the brush is fine, you know. I'm not going to go and beat the crap out of it, but you can use a brush. That's another thing that a lot of people don't realize. I learned this from Lars at Colourlock, the guys who make these brushes, that again, Alcantara is a lot more durable than you'd think. But you're going to see all kinds of balls start to show up here.
So you lose fibers as you clean it?
Right. So you can't do this an infinite amount of times, maybe 2-3 times, where if you keep it clean, then you won't have the fibers dislodge. So if you do this procedure, but just do like a quick one, you know, every 6 months, keep it clean where it never mats up and never, you know, gets totally contaminated like it is, then you won't have the fibers dislodge. At least not as much. I mean, we can already tell it's at least loosened up. Now it's wet, so we're gonna have to let it dry. The only problem is we are losing some of our blue here. I'm trying to stay away from that. We'll tape that when we go to sand it. I think that's
Is the blue coming off because of the cleaning? It was already pretty fragile?
Yeah, it was already kind of beat up.
Yeah.
But this is leather. Might be vinyl, but it's probably leather. Okay, so we'll see how that comes out. You could do that several times. You could do it more times if we needed to. But what's going to happen when it starts to dry, you'll start to see it'll look all fuzzy, and you'll be like, oh crap, this is what happened when I did my Corvette. I cleaned it all, got it all cleaned out, and then it was all fuzzy. I'm like, it's ruined. Yeah. And the guy was doing here that does like leather care, they were doing a tutorial, a training here, and he said, oh, no, all you have to do is sand it. I'll show you the sanding block, and it was perfect. And so I spent like literally $5,000 or $6,000 on all new stuff, and yeah, see, it's gonna start to. It's going to look like it's ruined because all these little balls are going to be there like, well.
By the way, the cheese grater thing you're talking about, I actually own one of those at home.
Yeah. So that won't work on this, but that's what's about to happen here to this. Okay, let's keep going. Let's do this part. I mean, you can even see, you know, it's not the same as, we're not putting, even though it looks like I'm putting tons of water on here, it's not nearly as much water as if we were using a spray bottle. So then the question is, how much is your time worth? You know, these are like $700-800 steering wheels. I mean, I think if you spend an hour on the steering wheel, I think it's probably worth it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Restoring it like we're hopefully doing here.
Well, I can already tell that the Alcantara is probably going to look great, but there's really no replacement to the strip unless you get the whole thing done.
Oh, and then it's probably not worth redoing it. Just buy a new one. They're $600 or $700 brand new.
Yeah. But like you said, it'll buy me time.
Yeah.
It's not something I want to focus on this at this time.
I think it's going to come out nice enough that.
And I've been driving the car, and when it gets sweaty, it just feels nasty because of all the stuff that's been there.
Sticky, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nasty. It's really like mushy, and yeah, it's not a good feeling. Yeah, I got to wash my hand when I get out of the car, essentially. Not before I use it. I've always been the guy that stayed away from Alcantara thinking it was, one, very delicate, and two, you know, once it gets ruined and dirty, that's it, you lost it, you gotta go get it replaced.
Yeah, it's actually more repairable, I think, than leather.
Yeah.
You can repair leather too, but I just never like how leather looks when it's been repaired and re-dyed and all that. It just doesn't look very good to me. So what we do is I always like to clean the Alcantara first. That way we give it a chance to dry while we're working on the leather inside the car, which we'll do next. Yeah, it's gonna come out pretty nice. See? So then you're like, your natural thought is, well, it's ruined. Like, well, I tried, I got it clean, I got it unmatted, but you're like, it's ruined. But you'll see when we sand it off, it'll look fresh again.
Yeah, because the top part was flattened before, no? Yeah.
Yeah, it was dead flat. So for those of you who are wondering, this is a Dupre Tosca, is the steamer that I'm using, which is a little semi-pro type. It's not a super huge tank, so I think I'd get their bigger one, but their bigger one's like $2,500. I think this one was $1,000, but I love this little thing. It's freaking awesome. Okay, let's do the other side, and then we'll let this thing dry off. We'll put it out in the sun, let it dry, and that way we can then reassess, see if we need to clean some more, and then sand it.
The sanding part is the part that blows me away. Sanding down Alcantara.
Yeah, I had no idea that that's something you could do. But when we sand, we'll show we have to tape everything off, because if you sand, you'll sand that too, which you don't want to sand. Okay, so I'm going to clean this section. That's the process. And
it removes stubborn stains such as chocolate and ice cream. That's the first two things listed on there.
That's the German translation, I'm sure.
That's the first two things that it's talking about. I didn't get to the third thing, but chocolate and ice cream. It's good to know.
Doesn't see cheeseburgers.
I'm sure cheeseburgers is the third or fourth one. I just didn't get to read that far down.
I'm going to talk to them about that and get the cheeseburgers added. Obsessed Garage Edition.
Yeah.
Stop eating cheeseburgers, but if you do eat a cheeseburger,
don't eat it in the car.
This is how you clean it. So, see how this is, because all that funk in there, this is going to be all balled up. And some of this will too, but we'll fix all that. I think it's pretty clean. See how much blacker it is now? It was kind of like.
Well, I was gonna wait till it dries to judge it, right?
Yeah.
But it does look, it definitely looks cleaner. You can see more fibers.
Let's go set this outside, and then I'll show you how to clean leather. We'll use the airbag. Let's start with that.
All right.
So since we're on the bench, let's talk about leather. Let me get this all out of here. And all that funk, all the cheeseburger funk's all over my wall now. Look at that. All right, so I'm not a leather expert, but I know people that are, and this is what they told me what to do. So this is leather. Pretty sure it's leather. It sure feels like leather. Even if it's not, it's really the same procedure, same cleaning procedure. And just so we can show it out of the car, because it uses a little better lighting. Coated leather, like all this stuff is, meaning that it's leather and then they like spray on like a dye and then they cover it with a almost like kind of like clear coat on the paint. Or there's a coat. So what I don't like to do, I don't want to do any kind of like they actually sell coatings, but you don't want to lock up the leather. So the leather, even though it's coated, it's still breathable. Right? And so I don't want to clog up that stuff. And so I'm using products that are specifically designed by a company called Colourlock. They're out of Germany, then via UK is how we get it. But these products are designed for coated leather. And so what we're going to do is we're going to clean it first. And so you want to get all the gunk out of the pores, kind of like we just did with the Alcantara, but we don't need a steamer. We want to clean it first. And then we want to protect it, but we don't want to clog it up. And so that's where Leather Shield comes in.
So that doesn't remove the whatever coating that's already on.
Correct, no. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a strong cleaner because, car's got some funk on it. So they sell a mild cleaner and a strong cleaner. And what I'm going to do is clean out all the pores. And this is okay to get on plastics and other parts of the interior. It actually cleans plastics pretty well too.
So how do you know if you need milder?
Well, after this, if you, let's say 6 months from now. So I use mild on my cars because I've already cleaned them, and I've kept them clean. So if you have a maintained car, then you would use mild. If you have a car that's never done, you've never done this process before, then I would use strong. Or if you have any kind of shininess or anything, I'd go strong. And so that's really it.
But there's no real con to using the strong. You can just buy the strong and it always does a better job.
Not necessarily. I mean, if you don't need strong, then why go there?
I don't know.
But yeah, you're essentially right. See how much it took some of the shine away and it looks so much more flat and matte. Now this wasn't super dirty and your interior isn't super bad, but it does clean it up and get rid of any kind of sheen or shine.
I like that matte. I like that matte.
Shine on leather generally means dirt, And then everybody wants to shine up their leather. It doesn't make any sense. I want the leather to look like it's supposed to look.
Yeah.
And then we're going to take Leather Shield. Oops. So Leather Shield is, always shake up all your chemicals. That's a little tip for me to you, especially if they've been sitting a while. But Leather Shield this is your protect. Think of this like wax or coating or something like that. This is more like a wax where it's not super permanent. The recommendation is to do this once every 6 months. And what this product does is this helps with dye transfer and all that from your jeans to your leather, so it helps to protect it, but it wears away after a while. And so you put it on, and you don't want to just let this dry. What is their recommendation? It's to, let's see, prevent surface from damage, expose high levels of friction, apply leather shield immediately after cleaning, and 24 hours after touching up. And then always clean first, use a soft glide to spread thinly, seam to seam, let dry, and then wipe off the excess. So I don't like to let it dry completely because then it will be streaky. But that's really the leather cleaning process. We're going to go inside the car and we're going to do this to your dash, we're going to do this to your seats, we're going to do this to all the leather surfaces. And then if you do that once in a while. So one, we're getting all the grease and dirt and all that stuff out of the leather, out of the pores of it. And then we're going to use shield, and shield will go in and protect it from further issues. And then you do that every 6 months or so and you're good to go.
Is that protecting from like UV rays and stuff like that as well?
I don't know if it has UV, but it certainly can't hurt. Leather protector, this leather protector cream is what you would use if you had older leather.
Okay.
The general recommendation is if your leather's more than 3 years old, then you would put this on first and then follow leather shield. And so I usually let it get to this point where it's at here, take a new fresh towel, and I just wipe it flat. See, because what will happen is it'll leave streaks. So I like to let it get almost dry, and then what I'll generally do is just put another quick little layer on and then wipe it flat. And that's how we do it. So let's go do the interior.
Cool. Essentially the same thing you did with the airbag, right?
Yep.
Section at a time. I can't even get the bolster all the way out because the battery's disconnected. Oh well.
Yep. And this is how you take care of leather. Not by.
This is a cool little brush though.
Not by detailers. This is by leather people. That looks so good after doing this. Just looks simpler.
Yeah. With age, simpler looks better to me too.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't want to get rid of these seats. I love these seats.
That's the one thing that I really wanted to change on this car.
I know. I remember you talking about it.
Seats.
You said the competition M3 seats. Come on.
Sick.
Come on.
Way better. These seats are like couches.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be like. You can still adjust the bolsters
So
on
you can
it.
go around a turn.
Hey, well, you adjust the bolsters to be tight. So you don't really recommend those products you can get off the shelf at the store. That's
Yeah, definitely not.
that's what I did, and it made the whole dashboard shiny. Tossed it away immediately after that. And honestly, I haven't really thought about the detailing that you do until I got this car. Before this, it was just whatever.
So this would be an example of doing some preventative stuff, The car's not super dirty. Interior's pretty nice. But you still do this anyway. And then you're not doing any kind of restoration. You're just taking care of it. Mm-hmm. And if you do this all the time, then it'll last forever.
Does it help against wrinkles and stuff like that?
It should, yeah. So now if this was a lot dirtier, like an older car, you could, that's where you get the bucket of water and you have to dunk your brush in it more often. Because this will turn brown.
Mm-hmm. Was the dashboard on your car the only thing that didn't have leather? Everything else? Or was the bottom as well too?
Like all this stuff is not leather.
Oh, okay.
This is the dashboard and then like underneath here.
And the door cards maybe?
No, the door cards are still leather.
Okay. Man, that's clean.
De-shine this dash. That's gonna be good.
Can you see the comparison already? Left versus right, matte versus... Dude, that shine was bad. It really looks dirty when it was shiny.
All right, so we let this dry off. Yeah, it's got some funk on here still. So it probably needs a whole second cleaning, but let's sand it here. So if you look at this is what I'm talking about, the pilling from the cleaning, you know, because so this pilling is what happens when it gets totally matted and then you release the mat from cleaning it. But you can see here's some of the product just pushed. So what we might be able to do is just kind of clean it up after we sand it here without having to re-wet the darn thing and have to go through the whole process again. But when you're doing any kind of sanding, you got to tape off the areas that you might hit. Otherwise, you'll scratch it all up. So I'm taping off the front and back side of the little control button panel here. And I need to tape this. It might even be easier. Yeah, I was gonna say, might have been easier to just take the darn thing off. But it definitely darkened it up, but there's still.
So if anything, it's so clean that it's showing the bad parts.
Yeah,
even more.
All the funk. All that cheeseburger funk is fighting to stay on.
That trim doesn't easily come off, Matt? You installed it before, you should know.
It's not hard, but well, I'm already this far. And I have to tape the back still, so the back piece doesn't come off very easily. But first, I gotta tape this, I forgot about that. So I'm gonna tape up the stripe. So this is 1/4 inch tape. I got it all here, buddy. I got it all.
Yeah, you gotta draw for everything. And that garage winner, whatever guy, he pretty much got everything too, huh?
Yeah.
Probably doesn't even know what he has.
Okay, so then when you're sanding, you know, I don't want to lean into it, but I just want to just gently. So think of it like I'm letting the sanding pad do the work. I'm not leaning into it. And then we're going to find out if it's ruined or not. The way you know it's ruined is just like if you're polishing your paint. Yeah, this needs to be cleaned again. If you're polishing your paint, then and you blow through the clear coat, you know you went too far. So that's the risk.
How many grit is that?
They don't publish it.
Oh.
I'm not sure what it is. But you can see we're removing Alcantara. Let's see, now we just reached another layer of dirt under there that still hasn't come off yet. So it probably needs another cleaning. Gosh, thing's so dirty. Dang it. See, look, it's still filled with funk.
Maybe it was a good idea to just dump it in a bucket of water. Sheesh.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. I get rid of all of our pilling, and it's soft, and it's not matted anymore. See, it feels good. Feels like new, but see, you can still see all the darn dirt in there. Looks terrible. So maybe yours was dirtier than my Corvette was, because my Corvette, I did this exact process and it cleaned it up. But the Corvette was matted like that, but everywhere.
Mm-hmm. But it was probably just like the outer layer. This one, it looks like it's just deep.
Well, let's try and steam it out here. So, for camera purposes, it works. Feels great. Feels like a new wheel, but it looks terrible. It looks like someone puked all over it. See? But you see how that sanding the beauty of the sanding is it makes it nice and soft and gives you like a fresh layer of Alcantara.
A fresh coat, yeah.
Yeah. So if there wasn't so much heavy and embedded dirt on it, it makes it beautiful.
But if you clean it again, is it going to bring out more of those?
It might, and then you just go like this again. And I mean, we didn't remove that much material. You'd be surprised at how much darn material. Because I tried it on the shift knob. Because like I tried my shift knob, and I just kept sanding and sanding and sanding, and eventually I sanded through because it wouldn't. It was so disgusting that we just ruined it. Yeah, it's just so dirty. I wonder if we can get it out. So really what we did is we pushed the dirt around and it's just kind of sitting on the bottom.
You know, I was going to say something. When you were doing it earlier, instead of it spraying off, it looked like it was just traveling to the backside.
Well,
you know? But then you did the towel, right. So I thought you would absorb it, but
Right, that's the only way to get it off.
Oh.
So, shoot. This is the last thing we got to do. So anyway, I'm going to do that off camera. We'll steam it again, but the car is done. The interior's good to go, nice and clean. And we might want to run a vacuum in there, and that's about it. But let's, I'll try to clean this up here one more time, and then we'll show you the result and wrap it up. All right, so that's the project. Dealing with matte paint, dealing with coating matte paint, dealing with interior, showing you how to do the leather, fixing the Alcantara. I think you're still going to need a new steering wheel, but it certainly looks a lot better. I did a whole nother cleaning cycle on it. I think it's going to come out, but we got to let it dry, and he's probably going to have to head home here shortly. So, what do you think? Any words of wisdom?
Oh, well, I mean, I definitely got to see a different approach on how, I guess, the proper detailing comes into play.
You get to see that there's a lot more that can go into like steam cleaning rotors and
that's the most intense brake caliper cleaning I've ever seen.
But all that work you do is what makes it easier in the future. You know, the whole point of coating a car is to make it easier to maintain, make it easier to clean. It doesn't solve any major problems. Like it's not like putting PPF on the car. It's not an end all be all. It has some some work goes into it to make it continue to look good. But yeah, I think we did a good job. I like the wheels and the calipers. The calipers coming out clean is my favorite.
No, that's the one thing that I couldn't stop looking at last night when I stopped to go get some fuel.
But if you think about it, a lot of the stuff like the leather care is probably simpler than most people. You wouldn't think to use a scrub brush on the leather. You scrub it and then you just put some basic treatment on it. But there's no free lunch in any of this. We had to do, we probably put 15 hours of labor into this thing.
That's for sure. Especially with all the leather inside of the car.
Yeah.
There's barely any plastic to clean. It's just all leather.
Luckily, I had an appointment to go to, so we could finish the leather. I freaking hate interiors. I hate doing it. Anyway, thanks for coming up, man. Appreciate you bringing the car. And
I appreciate you putting your time into the car, man.
Hopefully this is of some help to teach people about matte and then dealing with interior and stuff like that. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Appreciate you guys.
See ya.